Wednesday. Happy Hump Day Wednesday. Those of you that are coming in, if you would be so kind, please double tap the screen. I am live from Washington, D.C. on day 42 of the government shutdown, where today is the day where they may vote to clean this all up. As you can see, there are some people that are already here. Hey there, Shikabogs, and hey there, All Heart Grit and Grind. Again, it costs you nothing just to double tap this screen if you would be so kind. And for those, again, if you would be so kind, just share it, because again, I am live and I've gone live during a lot of these events. Shika, I know you just did not come in here and say blue. Now, I'm not going to go off on you, but I decide who I give blues to, okay? So if you're offended by that, and I truly hope that you are not, then my apologies for that. I'm talking about and I'm showing footage of what is going on in Washington, D.C. And it appears as though you're not even concerned or paying attention to that. So let me make an example out of you, but it'll be a nice way. I'm just going to put you in timeout. Okay? I'm going to sit you in timeout for a little while so you can understand not to go on people's pages and just type blue. That is extremely disrespectful. And again, you're not paying attention to what's going on that is affecting many people in the United States and abroad. That's a good question. All Heart Grit and Grind asks, is Capitol Hill insurrection proof yet? I'm going to say a resounding no, because while I was here, I saw someone that, again, went around a different way. And when I asked one of the officers what direction I needed to go, because there are certain ways to get here, because there are people here with signs, and he said he didn't know anything about it. So I kind of raised my eyebrows, saying to myself, what do you mean you don't know about it? You do realize that there's supposed to be a huge, or as Donald Trump would say, a huge gathering later on this evening that may seal the deal. Now, we do know that 8 Democrats have broke the line. They've broken the line, but in a last-minute chess move, Hakeem Jeffries, he kind of muddied the waters a little bit. So just because there was a vote over the weekend does not mean everything is hunky dory. There are steps, there are levels to this. It has to go back on the floor, and that is what is expected tonight. And after everything is done, and if everyone is in agreement, it shall then make way to the desk of President Donald Trump. Hey there, Scrim. How are you? For those of you that are just coming in, please double tap if you would be so kind. And thank you if you are new. Welcome. And if you're interested as to what's going on here, this is for all intents and purposes, the 42nd day of the government shutdown. Yes, all heart, grit, and grind. There are many levels to this, and I think a lot of people were jumping up and down doing the happy dance thinking that just because they came to a vote. But hard stop for those of you who may not have heard the news, and I'm sure many of you have, there's been a little hiccup. Oh, thank you. Who is that? Girl dad cooking up deliciousness. Oh, thank you, sweetie. Hi there. Fried, frightened. I can't read that. I have to pay attention. But those of you coming in, yay! Thank you so much. It is Wednesday. It is Wednesday, November the 12th, 2025, and we are expecting some traction, some motion, something solidified within the walls in front of what you are seeing on your screen, which is the capital, the nation's capital of Washington, D.C. And ladies and gentlemen, please understand that everything that's going on with this government shutdown is just not affecting the United States citizens, it's affecting those abroad as well. So, as you can see, there are a few people that have assembled up front with their little signs, and as it gets a little bit darker, I'll go up closer to see if I can't get some better footage. But I am in a perfect spot right now, and honestly, I'm resting because I've had a very long day. As you can see, ladies and gentlemen, there are flags. There are flags that are flying at half staff, and that is in memory of Vice President or former Vice President Dick Cheney, who passed away earlier. So many of you are aware of that. But as all hearts grit and grind said, that there are many levels to this. And as I was saying before others came in, there was a little hiccup earlier today where three, not one, not two, but three people. No, actually, I've been doing some surveillance, all heart, grit, and grind. I do more than just serving. I have to sit at certain locations. I do a lot of premises investigations. I had a couple of, oh gosh, of those this week, and I've got to go back to this repo lot later on this evening because someone was hit, and I've got to be able to prove that the truck did not have their lighting bars on and the logo was very small. Now, I've already identified the trucks, but the thing is, I have to actually get the footage to show that no, they do not have their lights on. The issue with that is when this incident occurred, it was light out, and I do not believe, I could be wrong, that that's what the lawyers are there for. I'm just the investigator. But I do not believe in the state of Maryland it is a requirement that in the course of one's duty as a repo company, that your lighting bars has to be on. So if that's the case, and again, that's up to the attorneys to really find out and know the law on that, there may be a problem. And another thing is, it could have been a one-off where the person responsible could have forgotten that one day, and every time that I go out there, the lights can be on. That does not mean that the individual responsible did not commit what has been alleged. Again, it could have been an accident, so that's a problem. That, yeah, it's a lot of time, a lot of things to do. But yes, so All Heart says he's laughing, okay. Hey there, Jory, how are you? Those of you that are coming in, please double tap the screen, or if you're listening live from a computer or whatever device, please give this a thumbs up. This may be a historic day. So, as I was saying for the third time, there was a bombshell that has come out that there's not just one, not two, but three emails that have been released allegedly that has the name of President Donald Trump in there. And these emails allegedly, and I have to say allegedly to be prudent and responsible, but it looks as though the author was the late Jeffrey Epstein, and Ghislaine Maxwell's name is mixed up into this concoction of mess. So, when we keep everything in perspective, there is something that I have been saying for the longest time, and it begins with the letter D, and it's distraction. Now, there's no, at least to my knowledge, any definitive proof that President Trump did anything that he should not have been doing. However, there are many people that believe that he did. Now, in his defense, and hear me out, in his defense, he did, according to sources, and again, I implore you all to do your research, that he cut ties with the late Jeffrey Epstein. But the thing is, when did this cutting or the severing of ties actually begin? How many victims were there? There have been a lot of speculation, and I really don't like to get into speculation. Another issue is the longevity, the time frame, because prior to President Trump being elected as our current president, during his campaign rounds, he said, and again, do your research, he was going to push for the release of these Epstein files, but lo and behold, somewhere along the line, that push started to slow down. And now there has been a fight, a valiant fight, and many people that have been down here religiously that have been saying, release the files, release the files. So there's a lot of stuff going on. So everyone that is coming in, hello, please make sure that you double tap the screen. I see some people that are new. Welcome. I appreciate you all. And again, all I ask for is a double tap or a thumbs up, because again, this is live from Washington, D.C. Oh, Kitchen Politics says you are full of doo doo, Dave. Dave, I don't know what you have said. Um, Roger is saying hello from New York. Hey there, Roger. Then, just a dude. Hey there, just a dude. How are you? And again, hello there, Jory. I saw you, I think yesterday I came into your live. So let me see if I can see what Dave said to upset. Let's see. I don't know. So Scrimp was in here, and I don't see a Dave. Okay, well, kitchen politics was timed out, so I trust my mods and I'm gonna let them do what they do. But again, as you can see, the sun is about to set here in Washington, D.C. Again, as you can see, a little bit ahead of you, there are people with some signs. I don't either, so my name isn't Dave, so I don't know if that was a typo or what, but I can't be full of doo doo because I'm only stating facts. So don't pow pow the messenger. I'm just here collecting footage as I normally do to bring it to the American people. Now, I saw someone earlier, and I am not even going to mention this person's name, but I will say he looked like an absolute idiot wearing a MAGA hat. And in my opinion, this person is nothing but a grifter. And he's saying that the release of these 3 emails is just a part of a smear campaign. His chat tore him another one. I mean, an absolute buffoon. He, again, totally irrelevant and has no idea what has gone on here in DC, as many people don't. They're only reporting as to what certain news media outlets have reported it. Unless you're actually here watching, listening to what other people are saying that reside here, those that work here, you probably shouldn't listen too much what other people are saying because they don't know. They're only going by what mainstream decides to say. Again, you have to be careful with grifters because they pander to certain people thinking that these people are in agreement with them. And again, they have absolutely no clue as to what is going on. Yes, all heart, grit, and grind. I mean, I've been down here myself, and while I'm melanated, even though it's a lighter form of melanation, I am melanated, and I've heard some whispers because keep in mind, throughout many of these protests, you haven't seen, and I have a lot of footage up. Not many people of my shade, lighter nor darker, have been down here sporting the MAGA gear. Now, there have been vendors of my color and darker selling that, but I mean, get your money, get your bag. I'm not mad at you, but the thing is, when you grift, you you haven't always been on that track. It's a popular subject, and you decide to jump on the bandwagon. You decide to jump on the bandwagon. I put in 8 to 10 hours, sometimes 12 hours a day. That's why you don't see me much. During the week, I try to throw up a few shorts to keep people engaged and in the know. But you have to be careful of grifters. Again, they pander to a certain population. And again, they absolutely have no clue as to what it is that they're saying. They don't know the history, they don't know what's being said now. And obviously, there's something in those files. And there could be people that are trying to scrub certain pieces, key pieces of information. I heard Bill Clinton's name hurled around a couple of times. I've heard his name, as I said, hurled around a couple of times. We don't know how many people were at this island who were victims. I was here live when some of the victims came to DC and they were speaking about it. And Gloria Allred, if you do your research, she's the attorney that is representing a lot of these women. She was here. So there's, I'll just say this, and this is just my opinion and my belief. There is a truth in every lie and a lie in every truth. Absolutely. Absolutely. So, again, there are certain people that believe that these 3 emails that were released as part of a smear campaign. But what I don't understand for people, and I don't care who you are, to say that it is part of a smear campaign when the very person who is sitting as president of the United States, and again, this is nothing negative towards him, this is fact, that one of your campaign speaking points was to release the Epstein files, and now there are 3 emails allegedly that came out that allegedly bears your name. How is that a smear campaign? That makes absolutely no sense. So again, for those people, the melanated people, as my brother All Heart and Grit and Grind has said, wearing these hats, you just you stamped what a lot of people say. Now, are there certain things that I'm in agreement with as it relates to our president? Absolutely. Absolutely. Are there things that I disagree with? Absolutely. See, some of you all don't understand some of the history and some of the things that happen here in DC, some of the funding. And let me be clear on this as well. Democrats, Republicans, they all are politicians. First and foremost, they are all politicians. Keep in mind, while they were away during these 42 days now, there was no delay in their paychecks. None. I want to be clear on that. There was no delay. So their pockets were not affected at all. I believe that this 42-day shutdown was a gross miscarriage of justice, and I don't want to be foul, but another, I'll just say, peeing contest between the two, because that's exactly what it is. Who has the power? Now, another thing a lot of people are doing, and again, in defense of, and I don't do this often, while Donald Trump is the president of the United States, he, hi there, Suwenta, hey there, how are you? Just because he's a president of the United States does not mean everything that he says goes. There's again a process. He can throw up an executive order, but that does not mean that wet ink is going to seal the deal. A lot of people don't quite understand that. And I have said, as well as many, given some reports, given some of the things that I've mentioned, I think there are other people other people behind the scenes that we don't know, and we will never know that are running the show. And I think he's being placed out there, um, perhaps for selfish, in my opinion, reasons. They always, and when I say they, I'm talking about politicians, I'm talking about the wealthy. I want to be clear on that as well. There is a difference between rich and wealthy. Make no mistake. Make no mistake. Yes, all heart, grit, and grind. Congress has to say so first. Thank you, all heart. Thank you, all heart. Because there are some people that will say, well, if the president says, the president can say what he wants to say. And we all know that President Trump has said a lot of things. Sometimes I think he jokes a little bit too much. And there are some people that take what he says for gold when he's truly being facetious. But as my brother, all hard grit and grind, says, eh, there's somebody above him. Whether you all want to believe that or not, there actually is. And again, there's a congresswoman, again, that this idiot, melanated wearing hat person, again, obviously knowing nothing about government and what has gone on, because if he did and wasn't a grifter and panderer, he would know beyond a shadow of a doubt that this congresswoman from Arizona, who is going to sign that petition to push to have the Epstein files released, she was already elected last September. They have just delayed and swearing her in. So, again, this is an idiot that a lot of people are listening to. But again, when you have grifters and panderers, not to give accurate information, but to grow their page, this is what you get. And because you're dumb, and I really don't like saying that, but it just irritated me. I couldn't even listen to it for long. And his chat was wearing him out. And that is what was humorous to me. You really should research and understand. She was already elected. Again, Arizona Congresswoman. I don't know if she's been voted in yet, but it was expected to be done today. If it has not been already, it will be later on. So again, pay attention to those that you listen to, and fact check them, and call them on their BS. Okay? They have delayed voting her in because they know that she'll be the 218th person. I repeat that, 218, to sign that petition. So it's it's almost inevitable that these files are going to be released. The problem is, because of the distrust of certain facets of the government, how much of these documents have already been scrubbed and toyed with, if you will, because again, I'm not going to sit here and say I know this to be true and facts, but I know what history says. History says. And Suente says, what you come from, host? I am a Filipino blogger in the Philippines. Well, welcome. Welcome in from the Philippines. And those that have come in, please make sure that you double tap or hit the thumbs up if you would be so kind. So some of the lights are coming on, and there are people that are walking through. Keep in mind, it's still, for all intents and purpose, not a done deal just yet. So as you can see ahead of us, that there is a beautiful sunset about to start, and I know this truck is not about to pull in front of me because it says no parking here to the corner. Hold on for a second. Excuse me. You see that sign right there, don't you? See, this is what you call entitled people, and I hope the police wear their handpipes out. See, this is what I'm saying. There are certain people that break the laws and they don't give a darn. Now, maybe they're just there to take pictures, but it clearly says no parking here to the corner. And that's exactly what they've done. Yeah, no, don't you be blocking my view, and I'm parked legally. See, the whole heart. This is what I'm talking about. Yeah, they're getting their hind parts back in the car. You can look at me all you want to, ugly lady. Get your hind parts out. Get on. Get on. The laws here in Washington, D.C. Get your butts gone. See, I don't play that. Yeah, but that's what people do, all heart. That's what people do. So more people are convening on. I see a lot of Suburbans coming in. You're welcome, Suenta. I'm going to have to visit you the next time. And for those of you that I may not have mentioned, please charge it to my head, not to my heart, but that this is a historic day. Again, what we're looking for to see um, if a vote comes, and I'm looking at a Capitol Hill police officer that is walking past me, but of course I'm parked properly and legally, so he didn't stop me, thank goodness. And I'm in a perfect position that if I want to get out later, and it really depends on what it looks like, I will. But if you pay attention to the Capitol, you'll see airplanes that are freely flying by. And one is just about to fly past the Capitol. If you look straight ahead, and it just passed. Hopefully, you can see that. But again, it's a beautiful, beautiful day. And here in Washington, D.C., the weather was absolutely temperature friendly, but at night it's gone down to 40 and in the 30s. So I already said I believe that we are in for a very, 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 very cold winter. So, yes. Again, those of you that have come in, please, if you would be so kind, double tap the screen, or give this a thumbs up, depending upon what device you are using. And Suenta says, I saw that building. There's president office in the U.S., right? This is actually the Capitol. The White House is about 5 minutes away. Now, I am sure, and I may go down there, I'm not going to promise you all, but I am sure with the release of those three emails, there are people outside of the White House with signs and probably chanting, release the Epstein files, release the Epstein files, because I don't believe I don't believe anyone was expecting that bombshell to be released today. And if you've lived on this earth as long as I have, where there's smoke, there's fire. So, the more people that are pulling up again, this is a beautiful view of the Capitol. It is absolutely gorgeous, and it's very beautiful at night. There are people still, there's tourists here. Don't believe everything that you hear, that are taking pictures, and at night the Capitol is absolutely beautiful. I saw a couple of cameramen as I made my way here, but they are probably on the other side. Usually, when I come down here, I enter from the other side of the building. But I thought this was perfect because, as you can see, there are people up there with a few signs. I don't know what the signs say. And we have another plane that is about to fly near the Capitol. And within seconds, it'll pass the Capitol for those aviation enthusiasts. So, right now, I've witnessed about 5 flights. So, there has been a lot of commotion about flights being canceled. Well, this is normal. This is normal. And what I mean by this is normal, the amount of planes that you see from Reagan National Airport, which is just across the way in Virginia, going through DC. So it appears to be business as usual here, but again, in other states, it may not be the same. Again, this government shutdown and this meeting that will convene, if it has not already on the floor, will speak volumes as to what is next. Another thing a lot of people were speaking about was the SNAP benefits and other payments. Again, I would implore you to do your research. There are many states, including Maryland, that issued states of emergency and put funding into food banks, and there were other states that put money to help fund through November. There are a lot of people that banded together as communities and set up their own grocery markets for people. So, those of you, not just you that are here, but in general, that needed food, that there has been plenty of people, good Samaritans, angels, I would call them, that banded together. So, if you were able to see some of the posts and word of mouth, you would know that there was food available. So, all of this panic that certain people are putting out there about looting and they're going to do this and they're going to do that, I haven't seen any of those videos, and I'm glad that I didn't. We have to remember, especially those that believe, yes, bad things happen. Yes, people go through things. Lord knows I've gone through, and I'm still going through some things. But we serve, in my opinion, a good God, a mighty God that provides and will make a way out of no way. And sometimes He uses people to get those ways available to the people. Hey there, oracles. How are you? Well, oracles, this might be It, meaning the end, we shall see. It all depends on what happens on the floor. And once it gets to the desk of the president. But as I mentioned earlier, we don't know what changes, if anything, that can occur because of the bombshell release of 3 emails as it relates to the Epstein files. And let me also say this, those of you that are listening or may catch the replay, you may want to listen to Jasmine Crockett, who says something very poignant. If, and this goes for anything and anyone, if you are truly innocent, if your hands are absolutely clean of any wrongdoing, there should not be a delay. You should not be having any type of conniptions or any type of distractions as it relates to releasing anything. Again, if you know in your heart of hearts that you're clean. Now, just because you may have been associated with someone, I'm not suggesting that means that you're a PDF file as well. But we also have heard that sometimes you could be in the public eye guilty by association. So we have to keep that in mind as well. So, again, those of you that are coming in, if you would be so kind, please double tap. Just take a moment to double tap if you would like. And if you're watching from a computer or another device, please hit the thumbs up. Thank you. This is live from Washington, D.C., outside of the nation's capital, where this has been the hub, the the focal point of many things that have been happening for over 40 days now. That being number one. Number two, the Epstein files. Do you think that the Epstein files are going to be released? Do you think there's going to be a coming together of both sides? Not just one side, but bipartisan, for the good, for the greater good of the American people. And again, as I mentioned, this is just not affecting the people, the residents of the United States. No, it's affecting people abroad as well. Yes, Oracle said he sent human angels for help. Amen. Oracles, yes. When you cannot trust in man, angels will come. And situations where you think you will never be able to escape. Again, happy Wednesday. Happy Wednesday to one and to all. I hope you are doing well, my beautiful Calais, my brother Oracles, Salenta, and All Heart Grit and Grind, who was in here earlier. Again, today is Wednesday, November the 12th, 2025. And this is live from Washington, D.C., where some of the lights are beginning to come on in front of the nation's capital. blessings to you, Swinta, and thank you so much. And hello again to you. Happy Wednesday. Happy Hump Day Wednesday. We are almost through this week. And as we know, it's been a very difficult time for many people. A lot of stress, a lot of people that have been working and they have not been paid. That's another issue that there's been questions as to once this government shutdown is over, will the furloughed workers receive back pay? It has been said that they will, then there's some that say that they will not. I do not know. I would hope that they would, that there's been destruction to the White House that was made for the purposes of this extravagant ballroom. Now, I can only go by what's being said, but there's some doubt there in my mind. Again, that costs, okay? But those things cost. Just like the foolish, and again, this is just my opinion, the foolishness of the mayor of Washington, D.C., who is Muriel Bowser, who I do not care for at all. And I've said that, and she looks like me. So I want to put that out there. Okay? The fact that she agreed to over 3 million, or it could be billion, but I'm going to stick with million, to have a professional football team move back to DC, where it was once in DC, then they moved it to Maryland, then they're going to move it back to DC. When you still have people that are homeless on the streets, but you don't have money, so you say. Then there was all of this talk about, and you don't hear this anymore. And this is what I'm saying, how some people sit there and you listen to some of these content creators that go by what the news will tell you. Well, first there was this grandiose idea when the National Guard, which to me was a dog and pony show, and I was out here, boots to the ground, showing you that crime isn't, what you were being told wasn't really accurate. The one of the things that our president and Muriel Bowser, who I believe was a puppet and perhaps compelled to agree, was to beautify Union Station. Now, to clarify, Muriel Bowser is the mayor of Washington, D.C. Okay? Union Station is owned by the United States Department of Transportation. The difference there, ladies and gentlemen, the Department of Transportation is federal. Have you heard anything more since that revelation has come about? And the reasons given was to get rid of the criminals and to make Union Station beautiful. I've been to Union Station since that mess was, well, let me not say mess, let me be respectful, when that statement was made. And there was nothing wrong with Union Station. I used to take the train when I used to travel for work. The way it looked then is the way it looked now, and you had pockets of the members of the National Guard there. Now, could there have been crime? as far as vandalism or breaking into cars, possibly. I've never had any issues with it, and I've left my car overnight, okay, and nothing has happened to it. So, again, where is all of this money coming from? Where? Hi, Rosemary. Rosemary says, well, Endo says, OMFG, you're in London. Um, I'm in Washington, D.C. Maybe someone else is in London. Again, those of you that are new, please, if you would be so kind, double tap, or depending upon what device you're using, hit the thumbs up, please, and thank you. Rosemary says, and welcome, Rosemary, and welcome, Endo. Trump is paying for the entire ballroom. Rosemary, do you know something that we don't know? With what? With what money? And I have a question for you, Rosemary. If he's paying for the entire ballroom, why isn't anybody contracted to build homeless shelters and addiction centers? Don't you think that would help the American people that are suffering instead of a ballroom? Or is it more to it than that? You do know that there are bunkers and underground tunnels here in DC, don't you? Well, if you didn't know that, let me let you know that there are because I've traveled them in my previous life. So if you know, you know, those of you that have worked on the Capitol or you know anything about that, that these tunnels exist. Follow the money. There have been people, I'll just say that, you can do your research that have been to Asia when it seems like the United States has been under a lot of stress and uproar. What type of deals do you think have been going on? Do you know today is November the 12th, 2025. Yesterday was November the 11th, 2025. Thank you for your service to all veterans, men and women here and abroad. Again, thank you for your service. Gas is almost $4 in many places. The holidays, for those that celebrate, is getting ready to tip extremely high once again. How is any of this helping the American people? You have people that have to make the decisions of whether they're going to put food on the table, put fuel in their car, or get prescriptions. And for those people with underlying health conditions, prescriptions are high. My medications are extremely high, but I have to foot those bills or wait until I get paid again. And it's just me. So if I'm feeling that, Lord only knows what full families are feeling at this time. Rosemary, oops, I must have erased what I posted. I said that Trump is paying for the ballroom with his own money. Again, Rosemary, I appreciate your comment, but do you have anything to substantiate what you just said? Do you have a record of his financials? Because, again, allegedly, according to some sources, he doesn't have that type of money. There's been talks of deficits. So, again, I applaud you for your comment and I thank you, but where are you getting that from? Okay, so you're listening to the news. Okay, Rosemary. The DC takeover that was in the news, that was here to, you need that too, right, Rosemary? Well, guess what? I did a video. There's still homeless people here. There's still crime here. There was just an incident Halloween, and there's trash still everywhere. So, you want to repeat that? Yes, unfortunately, I think Rosemary is a little bit, well, she's entitled to her opinion. So, applaud Rosemary for her opinion, but I think she's a little bit misguided. And Bandor, welcome. And for those of you that are new, please double tap, if you would be so kind. It says the government doesn't care about you and no one should care about them. Live your D lives. I have to agree with that. Rosemary, I listen to common sense and what I observe. Are you here in DC? Again, you're entitled to your opinion. I'm just letting you know I've been here. I've had boots to the ground. I've watched the homeless population continue. I've seen people still in tent cities in Washington, D.C., where the news showed you in the very beginning of this DC takeover of trucks and what do you call them? Um, those trucks that we're getting rid of tent cities and all of those things. Again, a dog and pony show. They're still here. They may not be in those locations, but where are they? They're not. Absolutely conscious and welcome. Those of you that are here, please, if you'd be so kind, just double tap the screen or whatever device you're listening from. Please give this a thumbs up if you would be so kind. Again, conscious and welcome. Good to see you. I hope you do return. Says, being homeless is a huge business, so it won't stop. Absolutely. I can remember Rat Teeth, Muriel Bowser, DC Mayor Muriel Bowser, she and her police chief, Pamela Smith, who were at the podium saying, we're going to send people out to these areas where the homeless are to see if we can get them into shelter or someplace safe. Well, it's starting to get cold now. I have not seen any outreach individuals, and that's not to say that it has not happened, but I haven't seen any of the outreach individuals come out to help any of these homeless people. And in fact, if you go to K Street and New Jersey Avenue in Northwest Washington, D.C., minutes away from the White House, you will see tents there. As a matter of fact, on one of my shorts, that's where one of the tents were, right there. So the fact that this still is a problem, and there were rumors, and again, I must say that rumors that those who are homeless might be labeled as criminals is absolutely absurd to me. And Conscious says the board of directors of these homeless organizations make over, wow, 200,000 a year. Most of the money donated is used for salaries and not the people in need. I'm not at my regular device where I could give you the proper applause, but you Conscious are absolutely correct. And let me say this, I used to work at the Department of Veterans Affairs, Office of Inspector General. All of the SESers, those that were GS 14s and above, their bonuses, whoa, their bonuses 10, 15 grand, yet you had homeless people outside. Hear me, outside of the VA. You had boxes of files in the appeals department, in the claims department, unopened at the VA. Do your research. The VA has been a source of scandal as well for years. So again, Rosemary, not to be picking on you, you really have to not just listen to one news source. I would probably encourage you to go to some of these government websites and read some of the reports of investigations and audits, and then make a decision before you decide to post a comment. Okay? All right. Conscious says in Louisiana, we have loitering laws. Oh, wow. Which makes sense to be outside. It's insane. Rosemary says, why don't you all move these people to a cheaper state? Rosemary, what state is cheap? And there was a part of that initiative stated by DC Mayor Muriel Bowser and Police Chief Pamela Smith to do that for those that refuse to move. But again, we're in a government shutdown, even though that's DC government, that they've already allocated over 3 million, it could be billion, but I'm just going to say million, to a freaking football team. Where's the money going to come from? No, there are many sources. My main source is my own observation, Rosemary. I'm here. I'm here in Washington, D.C., in front of the Capitol. Or do you not see that? I've also referenced what Muriel Bowser said. You can look on my shorts and you'll see that there's still homeless people. There's a Caucasian woman, Rosemary, that has been on the White House bench for months now, and she wears MAGA. Isn't that ironic? Isn't that quite sad to you? Rosemary, you donate it and get your friends to donate. I'm doing my part. Trust me, that's for the government. If the government, the DC government, and the federal government, which brings me back to President Trump, wants to have the commanders who haven't seen a Super Bowl in years, wants to have a football team named after him, which again makes me believe him. And one second. Okay, y'all, sorry about that. Hey there, Nita, how are you? And I'm sorry about that. Um, yes, Rosemary, I think is a little bit not understanding, but again, this is something that Muriel Bowser and Donald Trump, I think, had their little conversation about. But they're putting a stadium in front of the needs of the people, so that says a lot. And you can go to any news network you need to, Rosemary, about that. Okay. Again, I welcome your comments. I really do. And thank you for the engagement. But I don't really think you quite understand what's going on in DC and what's been going on. Conscious, I'm sorry, let me get back to you really quickly. Says shouldn't be about libs or conservatives. Absolutely. Should be excuse me, should be about Americans, but these political parties have you confused while they get rich. Absolutely. Absolutely. And this unfortunately has been the case for years, but I was a victim, unfortunately, of a furlough years ago, but it never lasted this long. I think this has been the longest furlough in history, or shutdown, shall I say, in history. And yes, conscious, it's absolutely unbelievable that we have individuals that they're playing games with people. They're playing with people's livelihoods. Now, let me also say this, and this may not be a popular opinion, but I'm not here for popular opinions. Do I feel that some of these programs have been abused? Absolutely. Absolutely. So, when I said earlier there are certain things that I agree with, that's one of them. Abuse of any program by anyone, and that's not limited to color nor social status, because there is something called white collar crime out there. And again, I used to work in investigations, and let me tell you, there have been a lot of people that were involved in some high crimes. As a matter of fact, real quickly, I mentioned I worked at the VA. There was a doctor who took money from veterans so that he could write them stressor letters. Stressor letters are needed to go along with your application to receive service connected PTSD payments. Those are tax free payments monthly, and they're a pretty sizable amount, but you needed to have a strong stressor letter. Well, there was a doctor that decided I can make some money, good money on the side by taking money from these veterans, again, who fought for the country. And finally, he was caught. But again, these are the types of things that I'm talking about. The mission of the federal government and most government agencies is to make awareness and eliminate fraud, waste, and abuse. But to me, this government shutdown has been the exact epitome of fraud, waste, and abuse, in my opinion. Conscious says, yeah, some people abuse food stamps, but rather feed a baby than bail out a big bank. And Conscious says 100% disability for a stub toe, while those with PTSD get nothing. It's so bad now. Yes, Conscious. Yes, I remember having to, and I told the story once before. I went to a VA hospital in Baltimore. I believe it was Lock Raven. I didn't want to go, but my partner was like, he'll talk to you, he'll talk to you. But he was a W amputee. Again, he fought. But unfortunately, his wife left him and he met some other young woman, and she promised that she loved him no matter what. And he was about to go home soon, but this evil woman didn't love that man, and he found out that she ended up forging his signature on an application for a brand new car. So he was devastated, and I'm like, he had the best attitude as far as being a W amputee, but as far as finding love and someone to really care about him, I think that really ripped him apart. So absolutely right, Conscious. There are people out here that has no conscience whatsoever. And there are many people walking around with PTSD. My ex had it. He used to grind his teeth in his sleep. And one guy that I met several years ago, he was so handsome, but I didn't know that that is what he was suffering from. He cooked dinner, very good cook. And we were watching the movie Saving Private Ryan. And during one of the, I'll just say, one of the upsetting scenes, he took his plate and just threw it. And I'm looking at him like, all right, where are my shoes? Where are my shoes? I was like, I think there's something wrong here. So he apologized, and I said, what's wrong? What did this upset you? You wanted to watch this movie. Then he kept saying, I shouldn't be here. I shouldn't be here. So he told me the story about being in combat and how he saw a lot of his comrades being unalived and by IEDs. And for those of you that may not know, that's improvised explosive devices, and just a lot of things that he told me. And he had gone through a divorce, and I'm looking at him like, you have all of these things going for yourself, not to mention very attractive, but upstairs he was gone. And the more and more I had conversations with him, I knew then, okay, you're going through something. And it was really that's not an easy thing, I'm sure, for those with that and those that are in relationships with people suffering from that, or family members or friends, that cannot be easy at all. So, Conscious says the amount of vets with PTSD are homeless. Absolutely. It's huge, yet we want to build a new stadium. Exactly. But see, nobody wants to talk about that. No one wants to talk about that. And I put up videos about that. But again, I'm just one teeny tiny voice. But again, they're all, unfortunately, they're all in cahoots together. You cannot tell me that you love your people and you want to see the homeless off the street, but then turn around and say you don't have any funding. And see, one of the videos I did, I questioned. I said, well, Mayor Bowser, you just said you had to take away from some of the budget. But why would you need to take away when you committed all of this money to move a stadium that was once in DC, which was RFK, back to DC? None of that makes any sense. And then the other day, she had the unmitigated gall to mention they've saved the Capitals, and I want to say the Nationals. No, Mayor Bowser, what you did was you helped in the gentrification of Washington, D.C. So these big, beautiful national stadiums and Capital One Arena with all of these expensive places to eat were built up that pushed away a lot of the poor and low income people. That's what you participated in, Mayor Bowser. So let's be clear on that. Again, a lot of people from DC, you all don't know the history. You don't know the scandals that are going on. Speaking of scandal, let's talk about Trayon White. He also gave a thumbs up to that move to have the Washington Commanders moved to DC, but does that mean that they're going to open up any jobs? I mean, you were just arrested. Council member of Ward 8, one of the poorest wards in Washington, D.C., for allegedly taking bribes from a federal informant. What are we doing here? Or have we forgotten about that? I have said, and I will continue to say, I believe that the mayor's office all the way down needs to be investigated and audited. Absolutely. It's and I'm trying to be clean, but it is absolutely appalling to hear some of these press conferences weekly, and the most marginalized areas are being swept under the mat. President Trump was speaking to a dignitary a week or so ago, and he said, you can walk down any Washington, D.C. street and you won't get pew-pewed. That Sunday was violence, and the Sunday of the Red Mass. The Red Mass, and the Red Mass, for those of you who are not familiar with your history, that begins the Supreme Court term. There was a man that was found outside of the St. Matthew's Cathedral with a tent, mind you, with over 200 alleged explosive devices. And because of that, the justices, which normally attend that mass, did not attend. Not much media on that. Did you hear about that, Rosemary? Rosemary, did you hear about that? It was a Caucasian man. It was a Caucasian man, Rosemary, that set up shop on the steps of the St. Matthew's Cathedral in Washington, D.C., on Rhode Island Avenue in the early morning before Red Mass. Did you hear about that on the news, Rosemary? That's been pretty quiet, hasn't it, Rosemary? But if you Google it, or if you look at my video bucket, you'll see what happened on that day and who did that. And there was a manifesto, as a matter of fact. Rosemary, did you know about that? Or are you sticking to your one source, Rosemary? Did you hear about the 72-year-old Rosemary that had a 236-page manifesto entitled How to Unalive a Judge, a District Judge? Rosemary, did you hear about that? Rosemary, 72 years old, Caucasian man. Rosemary, do you know that there was a judge, I believe in South Carolina? I don't want to be incorrect, but there was a judge's home allegedly that they suspected arson. Did you hear about that, Rosemary? Or are you just listening to one source of news? Rosemary. Rosemary, again, I appreciate your view. Thank you for that. And your comments. But when you come in here, okay, when you come in here, you make sure that you have some information, some backstories of some things that have happened here in Washington, D.C. that contradicts a lot of what is being said by the Republicans and also, to be fair, the Democrats as well. Rosemary, because as I've said and shown over and over and over again, I've had my boots to the ground. I've seen the homeless. I've seen the National Guard walking the perimeters of federal buildings. And museums. But I never saw not one guard in the hood. And I've shown footage of my being in the hood after midnight and 1 o'clock. Were there DC police there? Absolutely. Were there some FBI agents there? Absolutely. Were there Homeland Security agents there? Absolutely. But tell me, how many really ended up arrested? And there was no loss of life. Now, fast forward to other states such as Chicago. And there's another state that was really going crazy with riots and serious confrontations between protesters and ICE agents. That did not happen in Washington, D.C. How am I blocking the road, Chef? Chef, are you here in Washington, D.C.? Because you don't know what you're talking about. See, we have another person like Rosemary in the chat, ladies and gentlemen, named Chef. And he doesn't know what he's talking about as far as my blocking the road. As I mentioned, there are several police officers around here, and one just walked by me waving. So if I was blocking the road, I would have been told I was blocking the road. Raised in a hood, okay. And okay, where did you see ICE? And I said, I've seen them. I said I haven't seen the National Guard, Chef. Well, I'm sorry that happened to you, Chef. But that's probably why you were probably racially profiled. And a lot of the ICE activity happened in the area of Columbia Heights and Adams Morgan. And I've said that too. So you may want to pay attention to what it is that I'm saying. And Chef says, I seen National Guard interact. They're finna drop it here in Phoenix. Oh, okay, so you're in Arizona. Well, the only thing I can say is stay in prayer. But when the takeover was first announced, everything that was said was the problem was not 100% accurate. And that is what I'm trying to say to you because I'm here. I've been filming and showing everybody what I've seen for myself, not what CNN has said, not what Fox News has said, not what some content creators in other states have said. I'm talking to you and showing you from right here in Washington, D.C., what I've seen. And Robert, hey there, Robert says, we are on guard duty. What are we doing here? Are we on guard duty? What are we doing here? Robert, I'm here because I'm free to sit and walk wherever I please to, as long as I am not trespassing on government or private property, Robert. I hope that answered your question. And Andre, Foxhall, D.C. says, long live Charlie Kirk. Thank you for your comment. For those of you that are new here or popped in, if you would be so kind to double tap the screen or give this stream a like from whatever device you may be using, I'd appreciate it. If you don't, that's okay too. I'm not going to be upset. I just asked a question. And a chef says, I don't know what that word is, first get off home or something, man, is crazy, causing traffic or something. That guy is driving and walking his dog. Are driving. They're actually closer to the Capitol than I am, riding their bikes. In other words, Steve, I'm not trespassing. I'm not parked illegally. Some places you cannot park. They're designated for certain vehicles and for certain times. Right now, it's actually good weather, William, and welcome. Again, for those of you that are here, if you would be so kind, can you please double tap the screen or give this a thumbs up, depending upon what device you are using. Again, it's not mandatory, but it would be appreciated. And thank you to those that have. Chef says private property has fences and a sign that says no trespassing or private property. Yes, and then there's some property that's understood that you are not to enter. Oh, thank you, Anita. Thank you, my beautiful. And Moon Fletch, how there, Moon? How are you? Those of you that are new, please double tap or thumbs up if you would be so kind. Moon says, feel like a million. I can get into the front door. Okay. And Moon says, you don't even have to give me the $1 million. Honestly, I'll do it for free, but I bet you $1 million I get in. Well, I'm not going to take that bet, nor would I encourage anyone to even think that way. But yes, this is again live from Washington, D.C., in front of the Capitol. And we shall see in the end of the evening, if not already, what both sides have come up with, what they've decided to do. If they can come to an amicable agreement to satisfy all of the American people, William, absolutely. William says, and thank you, William, for your comment. The world is scary right now. Um, I, I agree in part, but it's the people in the world. The world is actually a beautiful place if you look. It's absolutely gorgeous out here. It's the people. It's the people that hate government. It's homegrown people that hate government. That's scary. It's those who plot against lawmakers. That's scary. It's those who wear uniforms, but they have nefarious behaviors for which they act upon. That is what is scary, in my opinion, William. The only advice I would have is that people remain in prayer and vigilant. Hi there, Mellow. No, this is not ASMR, but now that you've mentioned that, I'll have to do one. It may not be until the weekend, but I'll do one just for you, Mellow. Which one would you like? Let me know in the comments. Choose two, and out of the two, I'll do one, and I'll dedicate it to you, Mello. Make sure you double tap the screens, ladies and gentlemen, and your thoughts. If the government will be reopened soon, and if lives will be returned to, I don't want to say normal, because we haven't seen normal in a long time, but if you believe that lives, there's some sense of normalcy that will be returned upon the reopening of the government. And Mello says, it's fine. You don't have to do all that, but I appreciate it. Oh, okay, well, the offer was set on the table. And I like to oblige those that take time out to listen. William says, here in California, okay, well, California is in the house. Welcome again, William says. Here in California, the Democrat ran government basically forced all the victims in Altadena? I'm probably pronouncing it incorrectly, and the Pacific Palisades in Malibu off of their property. Wow. So where did the fire victims end up going? This is horrible. And see, this reminds me, and I'm not going to get preachy, but it reminds me of a lot of people speaking about why haven't stepped up. Mega churches and churches, again, I don't care what denomination, what color you are, churches rack in millions, millions. But I guarantee you, a lot of them are still expecting tithes and offerings. And keep in mind, we're in the holiday season. And for those of you that attend churches, certain churches, there's always a pastor love fund. Well, I think this year, in lieu of everything that's happened, maybe some of that love fund should be given to the members and those that are suffering in the communities, those that have suffered in the communities, because those that have gone without paychecks, well, some of you may know, it just takes just a little bit to get behind on a bill, and then you'll have to rob Peter to pay Paul, and then Paul is looking for his money plus some interest. It ends up being like you're on a gerbil wheel, and it's unfortunate. And we have some more police officers coming. But that is really sad. I'm sorry to hear about that, William. I did not know that it happened. And it's sad. Okay, so they're getting ready to close off this street. Hmm, I wonder what's going on inside. I'll find out momentarily. Maybe. But again, Williams says here in California, the Democrat run government basically forced all the fire victims in Altadena, I hope I say that correctly, Pacific Palisades and Malibu off of their property. That is very sad. As I mentioned, that was Capitol Hill Police. As you can see, that's backing up in front of me. That just blocked this road zone. This car next to me, you won't be going down this street. Oh, that's a taxi cab. So, not sure what's happening on the inside, but yes, they've blocked off the roads. That road, most of it, because that cab driver, and I know you all saw it, the cab driver just went through it. It's funny. And I believe that's him that turned around and he's gone down the street now. So, for those of you that are hanging in there with me, I don't know what the status is of this shutdown. If they're still on the floor, if they've come together, but unfortunately, in my opinion, because there's so many different layers to it, it has left a nasty taste in the mouths of many, especially those 8 Democrats that broke the line. And some of them won't even be voting anymore. So there are people upset as it relates to that. So it's a lot. It's a lot to absorb when you think about it in the grand scheme of things. It absolutely is. But as you can see, it is an absolutely gorgeous night here in Washington, D.C. And again, for all intents and purposes, at least for right now, as long as I know. Let me see. It's after 6 p.m. Eastern Standard Time on November the 12th, 2025. Still a lot of things to unpack. As I mentioned earlier, there was a bombshell, some saying it was a bombshell, of people who reported on 3 emails that were leaked as it relates to the late Jeffrey Epstein, and allegedly it had the name of our president, Donald Trump, in that. Now, what does that mean at this point? I'm not sure. Oh, look at that beautiful doggy right there. If you can see him, he's walking really slow. Oh, yeah, that's an old doggy. He's walking really slow. Bless his little heart. And William says, I think you vote differently than I do, but I respect your opinion and appreciate that you're fair. Absolutely. Absolutely. You have to be fair. Like I said, there's certain things I agree with and other things that I don't. There's a doggy I was talking about. It's a huge doggy, but he's old. Hi there. Hi. Hi there. Hi there, doggy. Hi. Cold news. Cold news. Now, see, ladies and gentlemen, dogs and animals feel good spirits. This doggy just came up to my window and allowed me to touch his cold nose. You didn't hear him growl or snip at me. Research animals and the spirits and how they feel about humans. Most dogs, they don't. come up to strangers kind like that. So, again, if you are of good spirit, you won't have any problems. And to be honest with you, and I've mentioned this before, I love all animals, but I'm scared of big dogs. I like little teeny doggies. He came right up to me. Animals know your spirit. They really do. Think about that. It's telling. It's really telling. Yes, William, that was a big old dog, but like I said, he was moving really slow. I think his knees probably feel like my knees right about now. You know how you feel like, oh, you can do it, but your knees are saying, nope, not tonight. But yes, and he was a sweet little doggy. So again, he's getting his little walk on, and there's still people around, but I think a majority of the people might be on the other side because I know there's going to be a press conference afterward, but I'm curious to see what's going on at the White House. And there's someone that's being interviewed right now on the right of me. I cannot hear what he is saying. Let me see. Hold on. No, he's too far away. So I cannot hear what he's saying right now. But if you pay attention, and if you paid attention, you could see it really good now because it's a lot darker. The airplanes have been traveling from Reagan National nonstop. So, again, a lot of news outlets were talking about delays in flights. Again, that may be true in a lot of other states, but here in DC, you witnessed it. Those of you that have been on this stream, you've seen a plane at least every 5-10 minutes. This is the norm. This is the norm. So again, I have to caution you just to be prudent and responsible. Not everything, not everything that certain news stations tell you is accurate. Some, but not everything. And you have to please keep that in mind. You don't hear a lot of sirens or anything like that going on here. Now, as soon as I said that, you can hear it faint. Could be a motorcade. There was one the other day. I didn't upload it to my shorts, but I'll do that in a little while once I leave here. But as I mentioned, I was curious as to what may have occurred, if anything, in Washington, D.C., as far as if there are people there with signs that are saying, release the files. Again, you have people just walking around with not a care in the world. He doesn't know if he's going to go across the street or if he's going to make that left or right. No, he's going across. Yes, he just went straight across. And you see more people just jogging like nothing is going on. And again, another plane. So flights here in DC appear to be normal and no real change. No real change, at least not from what I can see. It's a bit quieter, with the exception of the faint sirens in the background. And more people walking their pets. So I'm going to check to see what the status is, and I might go to the White House and see if there's anyone there. If not, depending upon what happens this evening, I'll come back and update you as to the climate, meaning how people are feeling. Yes, absolutely. If you look to your left, and it may be to your right, William, depending upon where you are viewing your device, you can see that the flags are definitely at half mast for former Vice President Dick Cheney. I hadn't mentioned that earlier. Absolutely. Absolutely. And I'm sure they are at the White House too. I have not been to the White House in about a week or so, but I'm sure that they are. Yes, William. And it's odd to me that there hasn't been a lot of talk about that. I know there were some issues with him after a bit, but yes, they absolutely are. And this guy is still doing an interview, so probably still on the floor. We'll see. We'll see what I find out. I may come back, but for those of you that tuned in and were kind enough to give a thumbs up, thank you all so much. And as I said, this may just be temporary. That's what I need to find out. A clean continuing resolution, if it's only going to last through January 30th. I mean, like I said, it's a lot to unpack. So I will see and research what it is that is being done. Maybe speak to some people before I actually leave and find out, unless everyone is still inside, and give you an update from what I've heard from the horse's mouth and not from one news source like our friend Rosemary that was in here earlier. Again, enjoy the remainder of this Wednesday. This Wednesday, November the 12th, 2025. Can you believe we are almost through, God willing, 2025, and we're on the heels of 2026. This has been quite the year. Absolutely. Absolutely. So, again, everyone, be vigilant and pay attention to it. Does, William. It does. You look up and everyone is wearing shorts. Some people are still walking around in shorts. I can't do it. I'm just too old. I can't do it. But yes, it's getting a lot chillier now, and they're predicting some heavy snow on the East Coast. So we need to be prepared. But again, I'll keep you all updated as to what it is I learn. And again, you have to be careful with the sources because sometimes the sources that you think are reputable may not be, because things continue to change, and that's the sad part. And that's probably about the 13th plane you can see passing behind the Capitol. So it's safe to say flights in the DC area continue without issue. Until next video, everyone, please, as you know in closing, be safe, be well, and be healthier. Until next time, bye bye for now. And thank you all who took time to engage. I appreciate each and every one of you. Bye bye for now.